Why on earth would you put coconut oil and butter in coffee? Doesn't that ruin it? Today, I'm showing you exactly how I make my morning coffee, which is a keto coffee, and the ways to make it taste really good. So let's get started. So a lot of people get confused between Bulletproof coffee and Keto coffee. Now the only difference between Bulletproof and Keto is that Bulletproof is essentially mold free, whereas Keto is not. All right, so I hope we've cleared that up. Now let's jump straight into the recipe. Now the main components of a Keto coffee is coffee, number one, number two, butter of some sort, and number three, some sort of coconut oil or MCT oil. Okay, so let's jump to the recipe. I've been waiting for this the entire video. So I'm going to heat up some water and I'm going to show you exactly how I make it and the way that you can make it too to make it taste fantastic. Okay, so let's get started with the coffee, which is the first part of making keto coffee. Now, I use an AeroPress because I live in an apartment where there is not much room for a coffee machine. So any way that you can make black coffee, that is fantastic. I use an AeroPress and it is a great device. I'm just going to pour, so I put 1 scoop of coffee in there. It is organic coffee, and I'm just going to pour some water into there. Now I'm going to fill the chamber. I usually start with, there's a few numbers down the side, so I usually start at about 3 or 4 and fill the entire chamber with water because I want a long, pretty black coffee. Now I have a little metal filter here on the bottom. You can also use paper ones as well, depending on how much you drink coffee. The metal one is great if you're drinking coffee a lot and you don't have to keep throwing out and buying new paper filters. So you just put that on top and you screw that on. And then I'm going to get my glass jar here. Now glass is important when you're dealing with hot liquids because it doesn't absorb any toxic chemicals from the outside. Now I am using an AeroPress, which is plastic, but if you have a better way of making coffee, definitely go for it. Now I'm going to put this little thing on top here so that I can press the coffee down into the jar. So all you do is you press down on the top and all of the coffee, all of the fantastic black magic goes into the bottom of this jar. It's sort of like a coffee syringe, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to put that away now. That's done. Now I have the keto coffee that is starting to form here. Now I have black coffee in the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of butter to this. 1 tablespoon is a good amount because it doesn't taste too fatty and it's a good way to start with a ketogenic coffee. Once you start getting used to the taste of keto coffee, then you can start adding more butter. Depending on your caloric needs, 1 tablespoon is pretty good to start with. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have about a tablespoon of MCT oil. Now this is C10 MCT oil, so it is still a very good MCT oil, but it is not quite as expensive as the C8 MCT oil. I have a lid here that I fill up with the MCT oil. Now this is Bulletproof XTC oil, which is C10 oil. It is fantastic to use on the ketogenic diet. So you're just going to put 1 tablespoon in there like that. Now, if you wanted to use coconut oil instead, I would recommend getting a refined version of coconut oil so it doesn't taste a lot like coconut. The problem with using coconut oil in your coffee is that when it tastes like coconut, it no longer tastes like coffee and it sort of ruins the taste a little bit. All you really want to be tasting is the butter and the coffee, right? The coconut oil is fantastic if you're using a refined version, so get the coconut cooking oil. That is still great as well. So now to make this taste fantastic, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of sweetener into this. Now there's a few different types of sweeteners that you can use. There is just plain erythritol, which is fantastic to use on the ketogenic diet. It does have a little bit of a cooling effect. In keto coffee, it doesn't matter because it is a hot liquid. You will not taste the cooling effect. So erythritol is a fantastic product for that. I also have stevia tablets. Now, you can get these at Aldi and they are fantastic. It's basically just plain stevia. Now, stevia has a tiny little bit of a bitter taste, which is also great and it's fine in coffee. It does not matter at all. So the little, this little container here is fantastic just for adding 1 drop of stevia and you're ready to go. Now, you can get the best of both worlds if you want to by using Natvia. And Natvia is a mix of erythritol and stevia. They both together cancel out the cooling and the bitter effect, and it is a fantastic way to add a little bit of sweetness to your coffee. Now you want to leave a little bit of room at the top of your jar, because what happens is when you blend it, it becomes very aerated and expands, right? So I'm just going to pour this into my little mixing jug here. Now I am using a plastic mixing jug, so if you have a glass one, go ahead and use that one because it is fantastic. Make sure your mixer is ready to use with hot liquids. That is the most important thing. Otherwise you will get keto coffee all over your kitchen. That is not fun. So I'm just going to blend that here. Okay, so that's what it looks like when it comes out of the blender. Now, it takes a little bit to actually get this undone, because what happens when you vigorously shake hot liquids, they expand. So that is the reason why you need to use a mixer that accepts hot liquids, because otherwise it will expand and blow up in your face. So I'm going to pour this into my jug. I'm going to pour that into my mug like that. And look at that. That is a super, super creamy coffee. And, okay, let's taste it. Oh, that is so good. So the reason why that tastes so good is because I'm using grass-fed butter. Now, grass-fed butter has, again, 6 times more CLA and butyric acid in it than any other butter, so make sure you get something that is pretty yellow in color. I'm using a good quality coffee. I'm using an organic coffee. It's around $5 for 250 grams, so it's not super expensive, but it'll get the job done. And I'm using MCT oil. So the difference between using MCT oil and coconut is that you don't get that horrible coconut taste. And if you are using coconut oil because you don't have MCT oil around, that's totally fine. Just make sure you get the cooking coconut oil, because that is refined. It has had all of the nasty coconut taste taken out of it. You don't want that in your coffee. If you are okay with having that in your coffee, then that's fine as well. So again, an added bonus tip, if you've watched all the way through, having a keto coffee like this is a fantastic way to extend your intermittent fast. Now, technically, coffee pulls you out of a strict water fast, but it is 80% of the benefits that you are looking for. So having coffee does not pull you out entirely of a fast. So you are more than welcome to use this to extend your intermittent fast throughout the day. This is going to be a fantastic, delicious drink, and I hope to see you in the next video.